Welcome to The Recovering Perfectionist, where you'll learn all the hacks you need to get started and finished on your business or project. You'll connect with successful entrepreneurs who are in perfectionist rehab, unapologetically experimenting and balancing life, business, family, and me time. I'm your host and Chief Recovering Perfectionist, Claire Barton. Hey everyone, it's Claire at The Recovering Perfectionist, and I'm here with Kirsty Bonner, who is the co-founder of Smart Chicks, amongst many other things. How you going, Kirsty?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So Kirsty and I have known each other probably for about a year and a half, I reckon. Hey, Kirsty, and we kind of came across each other.
Yeah.
I don't know, Facebook groups and that sort of thing, and we realised we had a lot of stuff in common, and we had the same sense of humour is always a good basis for a friendship. So I think that was definitely
absolutely
an interesting beginning. And at the same time, randomly, I also connected with your other co-founder of Smart Chicks, Quartz Lippert, who was on the show a few weeks ago as well. So it's been awesome having a chat with both of you. And Quartz and I also met probably around the same time, but from a completely different angle. We sort of connected over something more personal, and then we realised we were doing a lot of the business sort of stuff together. And since then, I've joined as an affiliate with Smart Chicks, bringing your beautiful networking events up to Brisbane in Australia, which is super amazing, and has been brilliant to work with you guys and rub shoulders with Quartz and Kirsty feels pretty special. So, so thank you so much for coming on and for having a chat with us today. And before we go on, maybe tell us a bit more about who you are and what you do and all your stuff.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me.
No worries.
So I guess my biggest passion now is, along with having built the community and tribe of Smart Chicks and what we have, is really truly understanding the power of what that is and how it will help other people to have success in their business if they can really move along those same sort of lines. So that's very much what we're about in the community itself, is about making sure that people are having success and being supported and being inspired and finding the experts they need to take them to the next level. And then a program we'll be launching very soon will be about enabling people to really look at how they can kind of create that for themselves, because, it is so important to have those people around you. So
love it.
That's
beautiful.
That's kind of where we are now. But
yes, lots of
stuff.
It's
been a long road to here. Yes.
So tell us where, because I know people will see in the show notes that you're an ex-science geek, and I have a bit of a tiny view into some of the other projects that you are doing now or have done in the past and that sort of thing. So give us a quick timeline of what got you to here and where did Smart Chicks come from and all of that sort of thing.
Awesome. So, yes, I did a science degree, chemistry, maths, and I was a real sports player in high school. I played volleyball, as you know, and that was a big part of my life really through high school and then through uni and then after uni. And so I've always loved that sort of team and leadership. I captained a few state teams and what have you.
Just a few state teams, no biggie.
But I loved being part of a team and really lifting others up, but also leading the team as well. So that was something that I was, really passionate about. When you look back at who you were as a child or who you were as a young adult, what really drove you. The science part was quite funny because I really finished high school and didn't know what I wanted to do apart from volleyball. And I made sure I did all the classes that meant that I had open slather, as to what I want to go on and do. You don't restrict yourself, So, I did all the chemistry, maths, physics, the English, and I can't think whatever.
Wait, you did chemistry and maths by choice? Out of choice, you did chemistry and maths? I don't understand.
Yes.
I don't understand doing that by choice.
I did that.
Drama, English. I think I failed maths in halfway through grade 11, which was the first subject I'd ever gotten anything less than like a B+ on. And I think you had to do like a quantitative. I probably similar to you. I did high school in Northern Territory and you were probably in South Australia. And
Yes.
I did
I was in New
biology
South
and
Wales.
geography because I had to do something that was vaguely scientific or mathematical. And, you know, I think I went to about 6 classes a term of those and somehow still did okay. But, yeah, maths and science, like...
Yeah. Well, I did my high school in New South Wales, and basically the way it works in New South Wales is you do 12 units, and each unit's worth 50 marks. So a normal subject would be a 2-unit subject, so it's worth 100 marks. But you can do and they count your top 10 units. Yeah. So when you looked at maths, you could do 2-unit basic maths or 2-unit normal maths, which most people did. You could do 3-unit maths, which meant you picked up 2 more periods a week, which meant you were doing 150 points worth of maths out of your 10. And you could do 4-unit.
You did 4-unit.
I didn't end up doing 4-unit. I just did 3-unit, but anyway, I did well in that. But that wasn't my passion really, you know, like I went on and did a science degree. I actually have come from probably a path of following what other people thought would be a really good idea for me to do. And that's kind of a bit of what my journey has been, because, you know, I actually applied for sports science in Canberra and I got into that. And so that's what I was going to do. And I took the year off. I was going to play volleyball for the year. I moved down to Sydney, play volleyball for the year, and then go to Canberra. But my dad, who did a science degree when I did year 10, 11, 12, he went back and did a science degree with Bachelor of Education. He was really keen on me not having a year off, basically. And so that led me down the path of, look, you got into science in Brisbane. That's only 2 hours from home. Why don't you, just come and have a look? So I looked, I decided to do it. I hated uni when I started because I lived off campus with a lady that had never married, that was probably my age now, but seemed like an old spinster at the time. And, and so from there, I ended up moving on campus and then moving out with friends and lived in Robertson, so really close to uni. Like, it was great, and uni was fine. I got uni under my belt. I met my husband, who lived in Adelaide, who was really good friends with a guy that played volleyball in South Australia. So that was how we knew each other, which is how I then connected with my husband. And that was 24 odd years ago now. I moved to South Australia and finished a couple of subjects at Adelaide Uni because he was doing engineering and he needed to be another whole year. So that's kind of how my journey started in science and coming to Adelaide from Brisbane. And I worked in medical rep sales initially, and then I moved into precious metal services, so for a wholesale manufacturing jeweler and gold bullion dealer. And we worked in refining gold, silver, platinum, palladium. So that was sort of my first shift to the science base. Was really good, but it allowed me to be that management, leadership, interpersonal skills person, because I coordinated between jewelers / prospectors and wholesalers that were, on selling things, with our back end of our refining department, our supply department that manufactured the solder and the wire and the, all the different bits and pieces, as well as another area that I didn't look after so much. So, I worked there until we moved overseas, when my husband's job bought a company overseas. When I moved over there, I worked for Sun Microsystems. Prerequisite in Holland was that I could speak English, which I did pretty well. So So I got a job there, which is obviously a big American computer company. And then when we left Holland, I was about 8 months pregnant with my first. Wow. So we moved back to Australia, and I was about to have a baby. So I was on maternity leave, and I just got into baby land. And then when my son turned 1, I realised I was pregnant with my second. So they were like 20 months apart. Yes. So 20 months apart, I, was very happily a mum and all of that. By the time she reached about 9, 10 months old, I guess I started thinking, what am I going to do? Like, I wasn't I wasn't on maternity leave to have a choice of, will I go back to work now or whatever. And I just had a letter that came in the mail that was a franchise that was for sale for a business called Hire for Baby, which is where I'd actually hired my capsule from. And I kind of read it and thought, man, I could do this. Like, this would be great. And that was really where it all started. So starting out with a franchise was probably the best way to start in business in many ways, because you had systems and you had support. There was I think initially 3 other girls, because the one I bought was a divided off franchise from 2 others where it was getting really busy. So they just took off an area and made another one. So I sort of bought it off 2 girls. And yeah, so that was great. I built that up, sold that for over 3 times what I paid about 3 and a bit years later. And then had another baby after that. So, you know, and then again went back into Babyland and got totally, you know, I don't know, eco-conscious about, because I had this gap, and of course things change in the baby world over years, and all these things come up that you've never heard of before. So, you know, I really enjoyed all of that, and then started, with some projects just so that I could still be contributing to the home, because I really didn't want to go and work for somebody again by then. So, you know, I became a Rex agent for solar certificates. I imported solar panels because my dad had done that in New South Wales for a kind of a group of them. So then I did that here in Adelaide, initially just for us and a friend. And then I did a second shipment for a couple of other friends, which in the end meant that we got our solar for free. And I owned because I was a Rex agent, I owned the solar certificates for them and just gave them credit towards it for them, which meant that I held on to them, you know, sold them later. But this was all, you know, just sort of stuff I did for a purpose, to earn money and to you know, input to the home. But that really wasn't a passion. I did have my supplier in China keen for me to maybe, you know, team up and work for them. But I just thought, you know, man, I don't want to be importing stuff like that and have to take the responsibility on board from a big business perspective. And so I kind of just did that on the side. Also bought and sold certificates through our self-managed super fund. So there I was dealing with big super company, like solar companies around Australia, buying them, holding on to them, selling them later, etc. So but that's all boring stuff, you know, just things that you work out that you can do to churn some cash that will be beneficial, which led me on to starting. I got asked if I would start a meetup group that was called the Founding Mums. My sister's involved with it in Brisbane, or was at the time, and the girl up there was looking for somebody in South Australia to do it. So my sister said, look, Kirsty's really keen, like really kind of entrepreneurial, and we used to always talk all different things, property and business and, you know, all of that. She's got a pharmacy and or had a pharmacy then, and was entrepreneurial as well, and property minded. So so that kind of had me running that for a while. That led me into marketing for a manufacturer in Melbourne, Melaleuca. So I've still partnered with them and educated on behalf of the brand there. Along that journey, Courts and I met. We bonded over property, which then led into teaming up. And then, literally we kind of wanted to attract people to us to hang out with that were fun. So we kind of started Smart Chicks, and
love it.
Just thought, like, let's see if we can hang out with some more smart chicks. Like, it sounds dumb, but that's sort of what we said. And from there, it just started with us, I guess, really doing what we believed in as far as naturally connecting and reaching out and finding out about others. And, you know, we really did wonder in the beginning, like, you know, can you make a business out of just being a connector and teaching other people how to connect properly? And we didn't know if that was really possible, but that's kind of what has sort of evolved, and it's been a pretty exciting sort of journey.
I think it's really cool. And, you know, since I've known you guys, I feel like Smart Chicks has evolved so much, and it's grown, and it's got this beautiful culture. Like, it's obviously you've got a membership site, you've got your networking monthly meetings, which are in 5-6 places now across Australia, which is really cool. And there's a beautiful online Facebook group, which is just for women at the moment, which is just such a connected group. You know, there's Facebook groups galore out there, and you can really tell the ones that are just spammy and that are just there for, you know, people to kind of do their own thing. But, you know, the culture in your Facebook group, which is obviously led by you and Courts, is just so supportive. Like, there's a couple of bits and pieces that sort of happen, as it does in everyone, but I love how you guys kind of deal with that and, you know, jump on it really quickly and that sort of thing, to nurture and to make it a really safe space. I did a poll recently in my group about what they loved and what they didn't love and what needed to change and that sort of thing. And people were saying, you know, safety is a really big thing. And what kind of breeds that safety is to have some really beautiful guidelines and to be led by someone who's got that culture kind of embedded. So,
yeah,
I think that's a
absolutely.
really beautiful space. So, in terms of, you know, getting that sort of started, like I'd love to know a bit about two things mainly. The first thing is the partnership, because I'm really interested in that. It's very topical at the moment. I feel like a lot of people are talking about joint ventures and partnerships and, you know, kind of having someone else who is aligned to your vision and values, but and maybe has the same, I guess the same vision and probably the same kind of people that they like hanging out with, or the same target audience, whatever you want to call it, but has like a different skill set or something, and kind of partnering up so that you can both, you know, have some support, but also maximize your messaging and all of that sort of thing, and reach more people, because that's ideally what we're here for, is to help more people, you know. So that's the first thing. And then I'd love to come back to the community thing, because I think that's obviously at the center of everything that you guys do. So we might come back to that in a second. But tell us about the actual practicalities, I suppose, or the, you know, how it works when you're in a partnership with someone.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head where you talked about the fact that you can have different skills, but the same vision and same sort of purpose, really, in why you would partner in the first place. And for us, it really is about the community. It is about authenticity. It is about making sure that you're genuine in the way you connect, and in teaching that to be just normal, because there's so many places where that's not the way people are taught, and we can't blame them for not realizing that. And the other big thing is, if you have really great support, you will do massive imperfect action. And that is the biggest thing that we've tried to, you know, have people realize, is if you're in a supportive environment and, you know, you've got, because some people relate more to Court, some people relate more to me. And that's the beauty of having a partnership, I guess, with different skills or different personalities that sort of come through. If you can work that well together, and look, we've still got gaps even with us where we need to then outsource or find some other people to fill in those gaps. So you can't always, between two people, cover everything. But because you have to have enough things that actually make you, you know, really compatible as well. But for us to know that we can really encourage people, even through our own mistakes, to move forward and actually create their business because they are brave enough to sort of just do things is massive. But as far as really that partnership, I think that it is important to know what your bigger vision is, and doing, you know, brand work where you look at that big vision and where you want to go. If that's really well aligned, you can really look at what your zone of genius is individually, and then look at what your gaps are. Then you can really flow so well, because, you know, you each have your strengths, so you can really work to each other's strengths, know what things to hand to the other, and know where to trust. Like, there's so many times where there was something the other day, and, you know, because at the same time you don't want to make decisions without consulting the other one. We'd love to bring you on as a coach or whatever, and then you haven't checked with the other person, whatever. But there are times that in the partnership you have to work out when you can just trust. And I said something to Courts, whatever, and she just said, yep, no, you know, trust, man, or something. And it was just a great example of you know, when you know what the other people are kind of good at, you're happy to go, no, you do that, and I just trust it, whatever. Like, because sometimes I have even, you know, like I was writing the emails and stuff for the summit that we just put on, and because, you know, she's happy to tweak and do things, but she likes to have something to work with, whereas I'm happy to just sit and go blah, like just kind of put it out. But initially I had a bit of a block going, oh, well, I don't know if it's good, like I'm just going to write it and maybe she won't like it. And she's just like, no, like I didn't even want to have to think about what that is. If you do that, like I'm happy to read over it and whatever. And so it's an area where it's great when you can have clear parts that you do that, I'll do that. Okay, you do that, I'll do that. And then you're both in flow, you're both getting the job done, you're working faster because you're both doing it. And it's just a great way to be able to partner up, and whether it's a joint venture where you're kind of taking on just a project, or whether you're just kind of working as affiliates for each other and representing each other, or referring, when you know that you've got really complementary. I think it's the only way moving forward to truly gain that leverage. Like when I look back to the franchise that I had, it was great. You know, I loved it. I loved the people I worked with. I had a lot of repeat and a lot of word of mouth. It's the strength within any business. But at the end of the day, when I came to selling it, it was because I want to have another baby, and I either got to hire a nanny, or I've got to split off the franchise, or because everything I was doing, everything. I wasn't outsourcing anything. And funnily enough, the lady that bought it from me instantly brought on a sub-franchisee who within the area had a second location, and so then she obviously earned less off the stuff she did, but she earned stuff off what she did. So she really started straight away to kind of have that bit of leverage. And I had to kind of make that choice which way. But effectively, I bought myself and built up a job, which was great. But a lot of people, if you do want to move forward, you need to look outside at joint ventures, partnerships, like just ways that you can grow and really scale what your business is.
I think it's such an interesting thing. Like I've had a couple of joint ventures in the past, and some of them have been fantastic and some of them have been interesting learning curves, we'll call them. I think I probably still got this kind of hangover from school, uni, work days where, you know, you were involved in a group project and you ended up doing all the work, or, you know, because everyone else just got pissed about or didn't do their thing, or were going to do a crap job and you didn't want to get a bad mark or something like that, right? I did a podcast on this recently about delegation. So I got my first official management role when I was about 19 in retail, and for about the first 5 years that I was in various management roles in retail, you have your review every 6 months or 12 months or whatever. Every other thing was like good. The bad thing, or the thing I needed to work on, was always delegation. You're burning out, you need to delegate. You're burning out, you need to delegate. You're burning out, you need to delegate. And at that point, I had no interest in self-care. I was, working crazy amounts of hours to the point where I would take no sick days until I had to take 6 weeks off because I was in hospital because I had some weird pneumonia or something like that, right? And they were always like, you need to delegate. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll do that. Thinking, no, I'm not giving that away. Like it's just easier and quicker, and whatever, I just do it myself. Until I finally, realized that wasn't going to be sustainable for very long, and that actually the problem for me, I'm kind of going a little bit off topic, but the problem for me with that was that I didn't trust my ability to teach someone to do it as well as I could. So once I kind of identified and got over that and started to sort of train people and that sort of thing, and then now I call myself a master delegator. If I don't have to do it, I'm going to find a way not to do it. I wouldn't say I'm lazy, but if I can not waste my time and not wait and get someone else to do it who's way more efficient, that's cool. However, I do still have things that are kind of like, I'm just a little bit scared to join a partnership and that sort of thing for various reasons. But I see that has massive strengths, and it's like you said, it's a kind of not a no-brainer way to move forward and to leverage, but it's a beautiful way if you find someone who you can really feel that you're aligned to and that you've got very similar values and that is going to put in as much as you're going to put in, then it's kind of the obvious choice to kind of go with. So interesting times, interesting space, and I'm looking forward to hearing some feedback from the audience about that as well, because I think it's very, very topical at the moment that everyone seems to be talking about. So
I think it is tricky because it's not always going to work, and so you always have to just try and make sure you go in with pretty good communication and pretty open about and identifying the skills. But certainly when it comes to delegation, and like we're learning all this as well, because it's easy to get stuck in the, is there enough money to someone to do this or to do that? But ultimately, if you want to really enjoy your business and do more of what you really, really, really love to do, the better you are at kind of getting rid of the stuff you don't love or you're not very good at or that you get bogged down on, the more free time you have and the more you appreciate, and yeah, just you appreciate everything more. You're happy to do the work that needs to be done, and you're going to eventually be able to grow bigger and earn more.
Yeah,
So
it makes a big difference.
If you don't want to burn out, you need to be conscious of that.
And I think in terms of the time, especially as, you know, most of, or everyone who I've had on the show so far have been women, and most of them have been mums, that I mean, everyone is time poor, if you want to call it that. Like, no one's got all that time. So I think it's a really beautiful thing if you can have someone who can actually kind of, you know, beef up some of that time, because that just means you can get more done and more efficiently, and you don't have to stress about it and do stupid hours and that sort of thing. We had Lisa Brinkett on the show way back in the beginning, like back in December or January, I think. And she obviously has a business partner who is in Europe. So she's in Australia and the business partner, I think, is in the Netherlands. And how cool is that? Like, one of them does their, you know, daytime and then they log off, and then the other one, it's daytime there. So they get to pick it up there. So their clients are getting this amazing, beautiful, responsive
24/7
team, 24/7 pretty much. And they've got outsourced VAs and that sort of thing as well, I believe. And I think, gosh, that's such an efficient, cool way. Plus, you've got access to two completely different markets. Like, you know, Lisa's in Australia, Ellie's in Europe. Like, that's totally different time zones equals totally different markets. But if you're doing the same sort of work, it just makes sense. It's such an interesting business model. So I'm definitely watching all of you amazing partnershipy people. I think I'm definitely interested in doing more projects and that sort of thing, and workshops and whatnot with you know, with other people and that sort of thing. So watch this space.
That's right.
Super interesting.
Talk about more that's right. Even if it means just like you said, projects where it's more of a JV under a banner, like where it's do these workshops, and you know, that can be a great way for, you know, you to utilize the communities of others, but still service them with something that community needs.
That's right.
You know,
exactly. Beautiful. All right. So in terms of the community and all of that sort of thing, and servicing your people, you did a beautiful post recently about how much you loved your beautiful, supportive coterie, Smart Chicks Coterie, which there'll be links to in show notes, which is the name of the online group. And I guess I just sort of wanted to check in about that, because I think it was such a beautiful reminder that Facebook groups aren't just Facebook groups. Some Facebook groups are just Facebook groups, and some aren't. Some are really that beautiful kind of connective place that are full of like-minded people who can really lift each other up. And that's exactly what you've created. So, you know, I know Quartz and I talked about this, and I think it's largely about being authentic and being real, wearing your heart on your sleeve, to whatever degree you feel comfortable with, but kind of just no bullshit. Like, you don't have to rock up there and have these super strict guidelines. And I know, you know, since working with you in Quartz, that one of your big things about the traditional kind of networking events was that it was a bit of a business card swap, that was not authentic. It was like rule driven around having to do referrals and all that sort of thing. And you guys are the complete antidote to that. Like, you're completely the opposite. It's not about, you know, being in there for the sake of being in there, and you're quite strict on that sort of thing. So, you know, for anyone who's sort of starting out and who either wants to join a group like yours or who wants to create a group like yours, what would you say are sort of some of the fundamental things that have created that beautiful culture, and what sort of things can people do if they're looking to start or to join one of those sort of spaces?
Look, I think that, I mean, community is massive. One of the things I think I love the most about once you actually, you know, create your community and really start attracting them is that you can get away with doing less of the outward networking that you have to do, because the more you've attracted the right people into you, the more that you can kind of hang out in the space where the people are you want to get to know more anyway. And everything comes down to relationships. So, you know, if you take the time and you encourage them to take the time, invest the time into getting to know each other. I mean, you can't go past looking at the BNI model. So the Business Network International, which is an international model that you know, can show millions of dollars of turnover in business because of connections between businesses. Now, it's a more masculine model and has had more of a you know, a strict kind of, you know, there are things about that model that didn't necessarily gel as much for us, but relationships are really important. So if you can invest time into those relationships, and for a lot of people where like ours is a business to business community, right? Because we're a business and our business is about helping businesses to have success.
Yeah.
But a lot of their communities won't be. They'll be a community around healthy eating, or a community around, I don't know, like massage or pregnancy and being comfortable, and, you know. And so what they really want to do is set guidelines early, be extremely authentic and genuine yourself, because by doing that, you give everybody permission to do the same.
Yeah.
And the more you have that come back in, the more and more other people open up and understand how that space works. And so, because women are emotional people. We like to get to know people. And even those of us that are kind of introverts, we still really want to connect.
Totally.
We still want to be connected. And, you know, there are some amazing ways to have an online space that means, you know, I mean, there was a video that was out the other day on Facebook. That was the one about, I think it was a mum's group that had known each other from over the miles from day one of babies being born, but they didn't have a supportive network in their real life environment at the time.
No, it's amazing.
The power of that today, and what's you know, possible to happen today is just phenomenal. So we may have some husbands that get a bit annoyed by some of those things. And they have to, I mean, even mine sometimes, he has to kind of realize sometimes I'm sitting there actually having a deep and meaningful conversation that might be via message with somebody, that when you're interrupting, you're actually interrupting my conversation just because they're not sitting here in front of me. So I know it's new and it's difficult for them to learn. But anyway, back to community. I just think that they're magical. They are truly magical. And that's really where that post for me came from, because, you know, I'm still figuring everything out. I'm still trying to work out what is the absolute best way I can serve the community we've got and make sure I'm nailing what they need and moving forward in business and monetary wise for me, and making sure that I'm just doing what I'm here to do. So, you know, really, I guess that's a realization sometimes that you kind of have in doing what you're doing and in building that community. And there's nothing more special than having a whole heap of people that get where you're coming from and why.
Totally. And I had a similar thing when I was pregnant with my first, who's 4.5 now, just over 4 now. And my husband's cousin, who I was really good friends with, was having a baby as well. So they're 2 weeks apart. And she invited me into this online group that I think migrated from like Baby Center or something, where you put in your due date and then you automatically put in like the due date months group of people or whatever. And the first, I guess probably the last half of my pregnancy, I was like, what are these people on about? What are they talking about? This is like, I guess I just didn't kind of get into the baby thing until I had the baby. Probably people around me were like, oh, would she stop talking about this bloody baby? But I didn't feel like I was kind of in that society yet. Like I'd never really been around babies, and you know, it just kind of wasn't really a thing. So I kind of opted out of most of the notifications and that sort of thing. But then once he was born, and he was one of the first, I think he was maybe the 5th out of about 50 babies in that group who were born over the stretch of about 6 weeks. He was maybe the 5th or 6th baby who was born. I started to get back into it because I was up overnight and I was like, I'm bored. I have no one to talk to. My husband's asleep. I've watched Gone with the Wind, and that's finished 3 hours ago, and I've finished Game of Thrones and all that sort of thing. Like I was just kind of bored and a bit lonely, and I think that was one of the really one of the standout emotions from that first period, that I just felt lonely, even though there were, I had friends and family around and I had my husband and that sort of thing. I just still felt like I was kind of in it by myself, and it was mainly the overnights that, you know what it's like, sleep deprivation plus feeling lonely. Catastrophe. Anyway, so I kind of, started getting back into this group, and because there were, I could post into the group and there were people awake at the same time as me in the middle of the night who could reply as well, and would just be, just have a message like, oh, you're online too, and just message, how are you going? Yeah, I'm good. How are you going? I'm fucking tired and I hate my life right now. But it was this kind of real thing. And there was something to say. Like, I was going to see nurses and I was going to the midwives, and I had friends with older babies, older kids and that sort of thing, but there was nothing like having other people who had a baby exactly the same moment
age.
at the time, that were going through the same things. And I said that to friends later as well. They're like, can I join your mother's group? I'm like, well, you probably could, but you won't get anything out of it. You need to, you know, connect in with people who are going through the same thing at the same time, because there's an absolute beautiful connection, and you won't get it anywhere else. You'll get other stuff elsewhere, but you won't get that kind of instant recognition. Like when you say, this is, you know, this is awful, I'm having the worst time of my life, that people go, oh yeah, that sounds awful, to having someone who goes, me too. Like, it's just a different connection. So I think in that sense, the same sort of thing in your personal life, in your business life, as a parent, as you know, whatever's kind of going on for you, like you said before, if it's a weight loss thing or a healthy eating thing, or you're going through a spiritual, like whatever, there's a group out there that's easy to find now, that back in the day, you mentioned introvert. I'm totally an introvert. I feel really uncomfortable most of the time going out in public and going, hey, I'm Claire, do you want to be friends? Like, that doesn't happen. I'm not going to do that. Some people are good at that, but I'm not one of them. But having these online communities totally makes that accessible and available and an option. And you know, I think the same as you. My husband often says, oh, so like, I'll be like, I'm going out for coffee. I'm going out for coffee with someone this afternoon. And I said, I'm going for a coffee with a friend. And he's like, who? And I told him, and he's like, how do you know her online? Oh, so she's not really a friend. I'm like, yeah, she is a friend. But we've known each other online for a couple of years. I feel like I know her as a friend. Like, I've never met you in person. And I feel like we're friends. Exactly, and I can call you to talk about business, or call you to talk about anything, because we're friends.
Anything.
And I think that's such an awesome thing. Like, people magical. Really put down this online stuff, but it's a thing. It makes it accessible.
It is.
You know,
it totally is.
People often say things about, I mean, everyone's got their own thing, but about Facebook, like, oh, if people only want to connect with me on Facebook, then, and they don't connect with me in person, then I don't want them. And I'm like, why? I'm able to stay in touch with so many more people than I would be if I didn't have Facebook, you know. And back in the day, like back when it first was coming, I think I've been on Facebook since about 2007. I was overseas. I'd moved away from where I went to high school. I'd fallen out of touch with like 99% of people I'd ever known. I had no contact with. And now I can see it. Like, I've often, you know, I've liked them and then I've kind of unfollowed them because they're not my sort of people anymore, and I'm probably not their sort of person, and that's totally fine. But there's people out there who I guarantee there's no way that I would be picking up the phone once a week to call all the people that I like just to stay in touch with online. And it's the same in business. Like, how cool is that you don't have to spend 12 hours a day making phone calls to say, hey, how you going? What's new in your world? Because you just know it. It's in your Facebook group. It's in your Facebook feed. I love it. Yeah. It's fantastic. And I love what you guys have created.
I think, oh, that's great. We're so grateful to have, you know, had you alongside of us and kind of, you know, part of the journey, because you know, having people that really get who you are is very, very special. And I think that the community nowadays, we actually get the opportunity to be connected with more people than ever before that genuinely know what's happening in your life. Like you said, even about friends from school or whatever. You know, there were some that I only reconnected with on Facebook, and now even just the fact that you kind of see from their Facebook page what's going on, you can at least catch up and not have to go through what have you done for the last 10 years or whatever, because you actually, you know, you do know a lot of bits and pieces, and you can't physically catch up with as many people as, in fact, you know what, this is a really interesting thing. A really good friend of mine that, you know, I've been best friends for a long time, she's not on Facebook much anymore, and offline we don't have a lot of time to catch up, so I actually know a lot less now about what's happening in her life, and I really miss her. And you know, and yet I have so many other friends that, you know, that I do know kind of what's happening, and you know, we hang out in the same circles, so I feel like I hang out with a lot more people than what I've ever really hung out with before.
It's kind of cool. It's very cool.
It is very cool. Very, very cool.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show, my love. We could sit and shoot the breeze about this all day, but we might wrap it up there. And obviously we've got links and everything in show notes, but how can people get in touch with you and Smart Chicks? Well,
they can connect onto the page, and then they should find the link for the group if they want to join the group. they can personally reach out to me on Facebook as well, and just send me a message if you connect and let me know where you saw me or found me or what made you decide you wanted to reach out.
Lovely. I love it. Thanks, honey. Great to chat with you. And
Pleasure.
I'm sure we'll
Absolute
talk
pleasure.
again real soon. I'd love to talk to you on courts together, actually. I think that'd be really cool. We'll do like a panel.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Kirsty. Talk to you soon. And that is absolutely it, my lovely. So I hope you've really enjoyed the episode. It was great fun recording that one, as it is with all of them. If you'd like to connect, I'd love to stay in touch with you. I have a beautiful Facebook group community at bit.ly/The Recovering Perfectionist Crew with all capital T, R, P and C. I'm also have a massive goal this year to get 50,000 downloads on my podcast, and I've got a YouTube show as well. So I'd love for you to help me out if you can by either subscribing to the podcast on iTunes. So if you want to go over and do that now, that would be awesome. If you have a couple of favourite episodes, or if there's one favourite episode that you've really enjoyed, I would love you to share that with anyone who you think would get as much out of it as you have as well. And while you're in iTunes, if you can jump in and give it a review, that would be amazing. iTunes definitely helps out podcasts that have got some good ratings and reviews and some really interactive listeners. So I would really appreciate your help with getting to my goal of 50,000 in 2017. The show is also available over on YouTube. The links are always in the show notes, so you can head over there. So it's The Recovering Perfectionist on YouTube. There's a channel for that as well. So jump in and leave your comments. You can watch all of the episodes in video. So if you want to see what we look like and our crazy hand gestures and facial expressions and all of that sort of thing, absolutely jump in. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel show as well, and then you'll be kept up to date when there's some new episodes that come in there. So yeah, love your support. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's hello@clairebarton.com.au. Always happy to receive your emails and open up a conversation. All right, big love. I'll chat with you soon. Bye.